would also have been exceedingly hard for me not to notice how viciously vindictive the creator of such a hell would have had to have devised so exquisitely malicious a form of torture, and then to have made it eternal, and how unjust in condemning men and women to unending torment for the sin of not knowing him, even though he had never revealed himself to them, or for some formerly imputed guilt supposedly attaching to them on account of some distant ancestor's transgression. Alas, that such a man was ever born! After all, I concluded in my juvenile way, if God knows all things, and so knew from everlasting that the final fate of the high priest would be to suffer everlasting torment, then the very choice to create him had been an act of limitless cruelty. I ignored the sermon in any event, as I tended to do with most sermons in those days. The conclusion I had reached as a result of the sermon that day remained with me, and I have never really wavered from it since then. I still find myself unable to repudiate my initial callow response. A slight shiver of distaste at the naive religious mind at its most morally obtuse, and then boredom at what I took to be an inept attempt to scare me. I had seen a few badly made horror films on television, after all, and, to be honest, even if any versions of those arguments did seem plausible to me, they would still fail to move me, since no versions deal adequately with the actual question that, to me, seems the most obvious and most crucial, at least if one truly believes that Christianity offers any kind of cogent picture of reality. The great majority of defenders of the idea of a real hell of eternal torment, for brevity's sake we can call them infernalists hereafter, never really get around to addressing properly the question of whether we can make moral sense of God's acts in the great cosmic drama of creation, redemption, and damnation, which these days tends to be the question of whether a free, rational agent, in order to be truly free, or truly capable of a relation of love with God, must have the power justly to condemn himself or herself to everlasting dereliction, and whether then God will allow him or her to do so out of regard for the high dignity of this absolutely indispensable autonomy. The always more significant question must be whether this fact would truly permit us to love an omnipotent and omniscient God, who has elected to create a reality in which everlasting torture is a possible final destiny for any of his creatures.